Alright students, we're continuing now with our design, and as you can see I'm still in a left and right panel, left side being code view, right side design view. To rehash one more time, and the toggles at the top left hand corner, you can see these tabs, so you can go code view only, split view, design view. Design view is fine. You can even go to live view to kind of quickly see what it looks like on an actual website. It gives you a pretty fair representation of what it would look like, and that's pretty much what it would look like if we put this up on a server or we view it in our browser. But we don't want to, we want to make sure you turn live view off. You cannot work in live view. You can only preview what the site may look like. Now back to split view. The purpose of this particular video segment is to show you the beginning introduction to CSS, Cascading Style Sheets. And what we mean by cascading, it really is you see a waterfall that just cascades down the mountain or the rocky cliff. The idea is the code just begins to flow from top to bottom. We begin to stylize this page. To be honest with you, we go from back to front, top to bottom. And you know that every website, like most designs or pieces of artwork, has a background. That background could be color, it could be image, it could be texture, or it could be left blank. It just depends on what your aesthetics are. And then from the top, we go to the very typical website. Let me pull one up and have a small conversation with you. I bookmarked here, of course, Troy University, a quality education. So you've got a traditional website. Let's look at this website and break it down into some very basic elements that are common with most websites. At the top, we usually have the entities, the provider's logo. This is Troy University, they've got their logo, but this is called the header. There's a strip, their header happens to go completely across the web browser window, from left to right. Now if it was short and it only went from about the size of this container, not all the way across, it doesn't matter. It's a header. It's like the newspaper banner, a magazine header. It's the top of the page. It's an identifier. It's got all kinds of content. They've got social media links and multiple other links. It's a huge website though, with tens of thousands of people that view it each day. Then underneath, we're going to start. We're going to design the background, and then we're going to stylize the header, and then we're going to stylize a navigation bar. We're not going to create something just like Troy University's website, but it's very traditional to have a header, have a navigation bar with tabs. We're going to create 2 links, maybe 3 links in ours. And then beneath that area, you've got what we typically call the main content area. The main content area. And inside that could be multiple areas. So get used to this. When we talk about these areas in web design, we're really talking about boxes, containers. Another word for it that's going to throw you for a loop possibly is it's called a div, D-I-V. What that means is a division of space. So when you see the word div in code, it's really talking about a container or a box that has its own unique stylization. It's got its own content, may have its own little image in the background of it. Actually, you can see in the very middle of this page right here, this is a div. It's a box, but inside the background it's got a picture of this Trojan head, this reddish color blending over here into this student with a Trojan helmet on, or at least half of one. And then there's some text right here in the middle as well, but this is all an image and text inside of another container. Then that container closes, and then beneath that is another container with 4 small links, another container, and then over here is probably a sidebar on the right it's another container. We'll show you as we build this. Then down at the bottom, we've got a footer. Now this is a pretty complicated footer with all kinds of links. But usually a footer just has the links repeated once again, usually very small, any kind of address, contact information, disclaimers, copyright information, that sort of thing. So remember, what we're going to do in this site build, in this lesson, is you're going to build a background, you're going to stylize the background, you're going to create a header, you're going to have a nav bar, you're going to have a main content area, and a footer. Now that's just 4 containers right there. Header, nav bar, navigation bar is what that means. Main content area, that's where we're going to put the body of the text or pictures or whatever you may have, and then a footer. And all four of those are going to be wrapped inside of one big box so they don't float off like outer space where there's no gravity. They don't float away from each other. But they're simply going to be contained in one box called a wrapper. And we'll begin that just now. So let's go back to Dreamweaver. And in the code view, for us to stylize this page, we've got to have CSS. So we're going to do an internal style sheet right now. What that means is we're going to go put all the styling within the same code. If we're doing multiple pages, we'd want to have an external style sheet, one style sheet that controls every page. It's economic. It makes one sheet of code, one page or listing of code actually stylize hundreds of pages of a website if you want to. All right, the code. By the way, I'm going to go in here into the head. You'll see the head right up here. Head and then body. Let me zoom in. In the code at the very top, if you'll scroll up, it's okay to have the split view. But in the head, I put an arbitrary little angle tag there. But in the head, where it starts, remember there's no /, then there's the title. Pause this video as often as you need to because this is very critical. And then underneath there is, and if you don't have the spacing I do, just space down, move things around. Just don't break up, don't go in like a middle head right here. Don't go HE, hard return, and spread something up like that. You don't want to break up the tags. So we've got the open tag, head, close tag. So in the head is where we put our stylization. So here's the markup for style, S-T-Y-L-E. Notice something as I'm typing. This little drop tag comes down, this alt tag comes and it says style. When it does that, I can actually hit my tab button. Well, it just did that and it didn't. Let's say I haven't finished the word style. It gives me a tag and space. It gives me a list of options of other parameters that I can select. There's many of them when I start talking about style. We're not only going to talk about one of them, okay? It happens to be the very last one in the list. It's type. Well, I just double clicked on that. Now, and then it gives me this style space type equals, and we're going to select text CSS. And then we're going to put the right side angle tag, and then we're going to close it. Study that just for a moment. Look at this. This is basically called a selector. We're going to affect the style, and the style equals a value, and inside a value in HTML we always use quotation marks. If you said the width is going to be equal to 100 pixels, then you'd say width equals quotation mark 100 px, and then close quotation mark and right angle tag. For whatever that's worth, let's type this over. I'm going to type it over one time just to kind of help embed this, but it's style. Notice this type down here gets pink or magenta color. That really means something's up, something's not completed right before that. Sometimes you'll see that in your code or your markup, that it goes to that funny color. Don't worry about it unless it stays there. When we finish this this tag, it's going to be complete and it won't be breaking up the code or the markup here. So I said style space type. I hit my tab bar, or I could just go back and type equals, but you don't know the code, but we do get these prompts. That's a beautiful thing about Dreamweaver. It gives you prompts as you're typing in the markup language and gives you some suggestions. Quotation mark text / CSS. I don't barely have that memorized, and I've been doing web for years, but I do know that when it's working, it's working. And it gives me these prompts to help. All right, as you can see, let me go back up here. Head, hot air ballooning is the title. Open tag, closed title. Styling is saying the style type here is text. It's a text-based cascading style sheet, closed tag. You may be scratching your head right now, but if you're typing this just as it is, you're good to go. We're going to start stylizing. So now beneath this, I'm not even looking at the code view over here, or I mean the design view, because it's really arbitrary at the moment. It doesn't have any meaning because I haven't really began styling. At this point, what we want to style is the universal elements that we want all to be the same. For example, you may want all the type to be Times New Roman. You want all the type to be Chicago, whatever it might be. By the way, we are not going to get fancy with our type here. We're only going to use some of the very basic ones like Arial, Times New Roman, Georgia, the fonts that are universal that come on everyone's computers. Just because you have a fancy font on your computer doesn't mean anyone else in the world does. And we certainly want 100% of the people in the world to see the design as you intend it to be, not as you wished it would. All right, body. What this body represents is the background of your website. Does it have a light gray background? Does it have a big picture in the background that fills the screen? The very far this element is in the body. The body is the area. You see down here, there's where body begins. That's where we have all of our content in the body. What we're doing now is we're stylizing everything that's down here that we wish to. If there's some defaults in web design, for example, Times New Roman, black, about 14 pixels high, that's kind of the default size. If you don't change it, it's just pretty much going to be that way. Hyperlinks are always going to be blue unless you tell it otherwise, etc. But here's the very basics, the syntax or the markup of CSS. It's built very much like HTML, but it's different. I'm going to indent this. Maybe so if I could tab this over. Let's see what's going on. I'm just going to indent it to separate it for a minute. But I've got body, space, then I have what we call a curly bracket. One of my Swedish friends calls it a seagull. And okay, whatever, it works for you, works for me. But make sure you are in here in the head still, underneath style, body, open bracket, which is the curly one. Look on your keyboard, find that for a moment. I know that PC users, your keyboard's a bit different, so search around and find that. Pause as you need to. Then I'm hitting return. I know this, I want the background color. And by the way, you need to type it just as I'm typing it, and you'll see prompts, you'll see some help that comes along. Background color, I want it to be gray. Okay, I hope I spelled gray correctly. And then I close. The similarities and the dissimilarities between HTML. This is HTML because it's got the angle bracket, it's got quotation marks around the value, the property is listed first, and it has spaces. CSS is a bit different. And the close tag over here is you have to repeat the / and then the name of the selector that we are actually impacting. So, but here's the difference. Now we're in the CSS domain. It's saying basically, by the way, let me get style moved around here. Hope you catch this part of the video, but style, all of this content here needs to be sandwiched in between the open CSS tag and the closing of the tag. So style opens, style closes, and in between is everything that we're affecting. So background color is gray. If I do this, if I say color, and the colon means equals, and by the way, notice I've got a drop prompt here that's helping me. I could type color, colon, anytime that prompt comes up, I just double click on there. I could select from a wide range. Let's just do this. It's kind of crazy, but I'm going to select this red color right here. What is it you think that I'm coloring? Here I'm saying background color, but when I just say color, what do you think this denotes? If you guessed it, congratulations. If not, it'd have been a tough guess, but it's really the text. If I put this color as this red, by the way, it always puts this hashtag, and usually it's a hexadecimal, 6 characters, alphanumeric. But what this really means is CC00 or 0000. CC0000 is the number or that hexadecimal representation for the color red, or at least that color of red. And then let me close this. I'm going to do one more thing though. Let me say margin equals, which is a colon, and then I'm going to say 0. And what it means really is 0 pixels. And then I'm going to close with the curly tag going the other direction, the right curly tag. This right here is what's called a declaration. I'm declaring that everything universal in this website, the background, the big background inside of it's going to be gray. The color of the type is going to be this red. By the way, I could type the word red. Early in the infancy of web design and screen computer design, there were like 256 colors that had actual names. red orange, you know. I mean, it was almost like Kool-Aid, goofy grape. They came up with 256 names of colors. Now we see millions of colors, but it used to be 256, then it was thousands, and then it's now it's millions of colors that we can actually see on a screen. Thankful for high resolution. All right, let's see what happens. I'm going to zoom back out, and now nothing has happened over here, right? Well, remember, I wanted this to be gray. I wanted the type to be red. Well, I'm going to click on this side. Oh, it did, didn't it? Well, notice that. It's already being stylized. Now, of course, this is what I want to happen. I don't want my type to be red. And I don't even think I really want my background to be gray. I want you guys to choose what colors you want things to be. Just remember they need to contrast. I'm going to go back here to my background and make it black. Okay, I'm going to type the word black. See where I'm at up here in the body? Oops, sorry. Right up here, I'm trying to zoom back in up on the color here. And right here where this says background color, colon, I could select it this way or just type it. Black, certainly a universal name for a color. And click over here. Now my background is black. It's that instantaneous, okay? But what it's doing is this, everything here between the style, open and close, is controlling the elements. And the elements right now are only headers and body copy. Headers and body copy. Headers, paragraphs, basically. All right, let's move on. I don't want this color to remain, at least not now. So I'm going to go back and say white. How about white? That is the default, by the way. Or if you want to go through your selectors and actually select particular colors, you can put in your cursor right after delete everything and go right before the colon and say let this drop tag come up, and if it says this, you can go to the whole color spectrum and choose any color you want for the background. You can see it happen on the right hand side. But I would say wait just a little bit, just put in something simple like white at the moment. And I like to put a space after the colon. You can't get too many spaces here, but just it's nice to keep your code similar but working. All right, I'm going to come in here and make one more declaration. And I'm going to create something called the wrapper. And the wrapper is the big box, the big container that your whole interface goes in. Not the background, but just the interface. All right, and I'm going to say pound or hashtag wrapper. There's a reason for that in a moment. I'll explain the difference. By the way, this is universal, and this is what's called an ID tag. That means only affect the parameters or the properties and values of things that are identified as being in the wrapper. Don't know if that makes sense, but we're moving forward. All right, and this wrapper, I want to do the same thing. I want to say, you know, I could do background colors, height, width. I usually start with the width, and I usually go to the height. We're going to fix these later. And margin, and pretty much we're going to leave it at that. Look at my code structure for just a moment, my markup. And I want this to be consistent just for aesthetic reasons and management reasons. I have this set like, I want this one to be just like the one above it. So I'm putting in my cursors and tabbing it over. But I want my declarations to be organized like this. Some people do it in one long line. I just can't see it. I like to separate my declarations and my selectors. So the body is what I want to impact. That's the selector. That's what I want to impact. Here is the property. I'm going to impact the background color, and there's the value. Property value, and now that declaration is closing. Now I want to go to the wrapper. There's many other declarations you can make and properties you can adjust in each area, but right now I want to know the wrapper, height, margin. More about the margin in a moment. All right, let's go ahead and create a width, and just follow along with me for the moment. I want my width to be 700 pixels. And you know, a computer screen, a monitor, it's 72 pixels per inch. 72 ppi is pretty much what every screen does. If it has higher resolution than that, it's really still recalculating and just squeezing down the scale of things. So height is, I'm going to say auto. Okay? And that auto means whatever content I have to go inside this wrapper, it's just automatically the wrapper is going to be as tall as it needs to be to accommodate that. Whether I had 3 paragraphs or 3,000 paragraphs, it will just wrap itself around it. So the height of the wrapper. Remember, I'm going to put everything inside the wrapper. And then a margin, there's two things going on here. I want to say 0 pixels, so that means there's no margins around the edge of the web browser, around this entire edge as you're seeing in the window. If there's a background color, if this wrapper, it's going to go all the way out to the edge. But I'm also going to say auto, which means make them the kind of margin on the right side, the left side, automatic. In other words, it's going to center. Now this is kind of bizarre. We don't have a tag here that's saying center, but we want our interface, kind of like this Troy website that we looked at earlier. It was in the center of the page. No matter what, you're looking on a tablet, you're looking at it on desktop. All right, let's see if we can squeeze at least one more in this video. Okay, we got a wrapper, and then I'll get you to do this during the break between videos, but let's go ahead and create these IDs. I'm going to say wrapper header, open tag, and I'm going to go ahead and say close tag. Then I know that we're going to have a nav bar, so I'm going to say hashtag nav bar. Remember, no capital letters, no spaces over here, even in the code or the markup. Forgive me if I say code. We just kind of universally say that when it really is markup language. But we're going to have a body background wrapper entirely around everything, then the header, nav bar, and underneath the nav bar is going to be a main content area. Open curly bracket, close curly bracket. We're going to put some declarations inside of these. These are just the selectors, the things that we're going to create. And then we're going to say hashtag footer and close. Look at this, pause it, and make your code look just like this, and we'll kind of catch up with me, all right? But all of your stylization from here to here should look just like this. Not one, if you had a comma here instead of a semicolon, it will not work. If you had your X and your P inverted on pixels, it will not work. So be very meticulous with this. All right, meet back with you in the next video.